Hi guys, welcome back to the shop. Hey, today I'm going to get back on the Yamaha mini bike GT-1 GT80, and what I need to do is to finish the bike up is to adjust the oil cable, or the cables, the oil pump, and make sure it's supplying enough oil to the engine. Been over there horsing around with it already, and there's just no way it's going to adjust because the cables are severely stretched, and I just cannot get to the adjustment. I went in, I looked them up and checked on eBay and with the OEM. They're not, of course they're not available. I didn't think they would be unless perhaps they fit something that is available now, but evidently they're not, because they're not available. So what we're going to end up doing is at least shortening them. I think the lower and the upper throttle cable are going to need to be completely remade. The oil pump cable, I believe we can get by with just shortening it. Well, let me take you over there and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, you can kind of see here what I'm talking about. We've got a bunch of tape wrapped around this, and you can see that it's split underneath there. So that's a problem, although we do have most of the adjustment here. I'm just afraid that when I take this off I might find another problem. But I mean, just having the problem there that it's broke is enough. So we probably need to do this upper cable. And when I get around to the carburetor's end, everything looks okay here. The junction box is looking okay, unless I break it when I pop it apart. And we've got this one little short cable, and you can see there that the adjustment is just pretty much taken up. So that needs to be shortened for sure. And you can see the crack right up here. So that's another issue. And once we get over to the oil pump cable, this one is in okay shape. It's not cracked. It wasn't cracked over at the junction either. So I think this one's doable. We can just probably nip off the end here and cut a little bit of the cable off and put a new end on. I think that will work okay here. The problem is you're seeing that I'm completely out of adjustment here. I've got about one thread left in this one, so there's just nothing left. And if you look, I need to align the pin with the little arrow there. And with what I've got to work with right now, I just can't do it. This is, the book is saying that we need to adjust the pump cable so that the marking arrow on the pump adjusting pulley is aligned with guide pin. I've got not a very good picture here, but that's kind of run of the mill. That's the way most of them are adjusted. And like here, they're at the top of the carburetor, they're about 1 millimeter free play. And up here at the throttle, 0.5 to 1 millimeter. So that's doable here, but we've got a problem with the outer sheath on the cable, so we're going to take care of that. But I think that's where we're at on this, is we're just going to have to work on these cables a little bit before we do anything. The thing with these, when you're adjusting these pumps, is that the cables are adjusted first, and then you adjust the pump, except for an initial check of the clearance between the pump washer and the pulley. If that one's okay, in this case this one is, then you proceed on to cable adjustment. So we're going to go through all that, but the number one thing is the cables are first. So just don't play around with the pump or anything like that if you can't adjust the cables to the proper with the proper procedure. If you can't do that, you have no reason to be adjusting the pump, because it's not going to be right. Okay, I'm just going to measure this a little bit here. I've got basically all this here, which we're about 6 millimeter, and let's see what we got down here. Yeah, 7. So I think if we cut out 12 millimeters, that's a lot, isn't it? But that's what we need to get this back to an adjustment. So this is what we're going to take out, and then hopefully we'll be able to screw this all the way down and be able to make our adjustment there. So let me start. I'm going to make a note of this amount here, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the throttle cables. Okay, over here, I've just got a little play right there, so I think that's okay. So really all we need to remove is most of that. So we'll take a close reading there, about 5 millimeter. And I'll make a note of that one. Yeah. Okay. This I'm going to have to get it off and find out what's going on. Make sure that the other end is where it, where it's all the way in, so I can get a good reading. So that's what I'll do next. I guess I'll pop these zip ties that I just put on there the other day. I'm going to have to get into all that, so I'll go ahead and remove the slide. And of course over here we'll just roll that pump back and go ahead and grab our cable out of there, so you can see there what we're up against. Okay, of course I have to pull all this apart to get that throttle cable through there, but that's just part of it. Okay, so this is what we've got to work with. Like I said, the oil pump cable I think is doable. All we'll need to do is cut off our 12 millimeter and reapply an end there. That one is going to be easy. This one, pretty easy too. We've got, I forget what it was, 5mm I think. But this one we've got to find out where we're at here. So we'll get rid of this so we can see what's going on under it. Looks like it's probably a bunch of shrink wrap or something. There. Yeah. Okay. So that certainly needs to be addressed. I can't even get that out of there. All right, let me work on that. Okay, we've got two different size cables here. The main cable going up to the handlebars is 1.5mm. That's pretty common for throttle cables. And then when we get down to the, this short one is 1.25, and same with the oil pump, 1.25. But I was just looking here. See, these have this this little nylon piece in here. So I think if you, that makes it about 2. Let's see, this has got to wrap around the pulley, so it's got to be 1.25. So I've got 1.25 here, so we're going to have to go back with it. Now on this one, there again we've got to go through the slide with that. Let me get that real quick. Okay, this is what I'm talking about here, where we go through there to get it into the slot. But see, there's plenty of room there. So I believe that we can finish that one out with 1.5. Let's see if it'll go in there. I think this is 1.5. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So that'll work. We can go ahead and just do the whole throttle cable in 1.5. But I don't think that 1.5 is going to wrap the pulley, so we're going to have to use, well, we don't have to do anything with that, because this one we're just going to cut off. So all this should still be okay. I think we'll be able to make that. Okay. Just little things that you need to look at before you start building cables. Okay guys, thanks a lot. Don't forget to thumbs up. Okay, first thing I'm going to work on here is the oil cable. And the first thing I notice here is I don't have any of these ends right here. So I do have these ends, so that's what this is the end I'm going to cut off. You need to look at stuff like that so you know what you're up against before you do it. So on the oil cable I made a note that we need to take 12mm, need to remove 12mm. And that's from the end, which would be from here. So I've got that set up at it, and I just give it a little mark. And of course now my mark is going to be the end. Otherwise the mark I'm going to cut beyond the mark since the that really wasn't the end. Okay, so there's what we're cutting off, and the next thing we need to do is first get our new end on, and it's got the, I don't know whether you can tell it or not, it's got a tapered end on it. The other end's not tapered, just straight. So you want the tapered end towards the end so that the bird nest or bird cage will fit into it. Okay, then you need to look at your cable. This is actually a 125 cable. Oops. There, finally. Thanks, Alex, for these wonderful bird caging tool. Much better than mine. And I think you can see probably the wire in there. You just kind of, it's kind of a by look, by feel type thing. And we're gonna, okay, I believe we need a little more. So I'm gonna slide it up a little. That's looking better. And now this piece is going to come up and it's going to slide right up to it. So you can see now that that is going to keep the end from coming off. Once the solder's in there, it can't go anywhere. Okay, first thing we need to do is get some acetone and clean the end and the wire, the cable. And we'll just let that air dry. Okay, we're all dried, and I'm just going to put a little flux. And we're ready to go. I've got my solder ready here. Just going to put that in there for about 10 seconds. And then dip it in some water, cool her off. There. Okay. I'm not seeing anything wrong with the inner cable on this one. So instead of burning up all my ends, I'm going to reuse the inner cable, and we'll just make a new outer for it so that we get rid of this damage area. And we're just going to try to make it about the same as the old one, except the inner cable is going to be, I believe it was 5 millimeters shorter. Okay. There's that, and I've got to grind down the ends a little bit. Just going to flatten out the ends and get the burr off of it. Got my bird cage on the end, and we're getting got our little end on there. Give it a good cleaning. And I actually put a little bit of that flux on underneath it and into the bird cage itself, so that solder will flow. And then once we get it down there, put a little bit in the end of it. Okay, on this one we're going to replace the whole thing because it just gets used more. So I'll go ahead and just clip off the end, make a note of the size of it there. It's just the length. I don't think I can cut it right up to it. So we'll just cut it right there. So we need to know, because we don't need to make this one any shorter, it doesn't look like. So about we'll just say 8. That'll get that one just a tad shorter. But we don't need much because it was we had the adjustment all the way down here. So this end, we've got to remember all this stuff needs to go back on. Okay. Worry about that end later. And we'll just go ahead and measure everything out. Everything is going to be the same. It's just you got a few more moving parts here. So I'm not going to go into this one. It's this one is a 1.5 inch wire instead of the 1 1/4 though. Okay guys, I've got the new cables on. I went ahead and did a new cable down here too. It just makes sense to make sure everything's good and new to start with. So we've got it all done, and I've got the adjustment all the way down here, and we've also got the adjustment all the way down here. And if you look inside, I believe that the slide is all the way down. It does go all the way up. Usually you can kind of feel that snap when it hits the bottom, and I've got the idle screw screwed out so I can feel that, so I know it's not hitting idle. So I think that's good. If it's not, we'll have to deal with it, but I think it's okay. And this one here is certainly down all the way, but we'll have to make that adjustment so that we get the pin up by the arrow right here. But we're going to start at the very beginning and for our adjustment. Okay, first thing it wants to do is to check the minimum gap here between the plate, that's the washer looking thing here, and the pulley. There's actually a gap right in here. And the first thing it wants you to check is to make sure that that gap, you want to open it up as far as you can get it. There's a little plastic wheel right here. It's going to be real difficult to see, but it's right here. And there's an arrow on the back of it. You'll have to look up in there. And in this case, the arrow is pointing this way. So it tells me to turn this. Can you see that? Okay, right here. I think you can see it now. Okay. So we're going to turn that. Until we get the widest gap right here. I've got to move you just a minute here so I can see it. Okay, I think that's it. And they want you to check and make sure you have a minimum gap of 0.15 millimeter. Okay, it's about 6 thousandths. Okay, and this is right here is where you're going to check. It says if that will go in there, well, I don't think I've got it. There it's open. Okay. Okay, see it goes in there real, it doesn't drag at all. Okay, so that 0.15 millimeter goes in there. That's your minimum. Now it tells us to adjust that, and when you, what you want is 0.30 millimeter to 0.35 millimeter. Now it wants you to be able to insert a 0.30, which is about 12 thousandths. And that really doesn't go in there. There's a drag, a real kind of a heavy drag. So this isn't quite as wide as they really want it. So in order to adjust that, we've got to remove the nut and this lock washer, pull the plate, or the plate, yeah, they call this the plate, off, and up inside up in here, I think you can see a washer, kind of a brass looking washer. Okay, so there's one in there, but it needs to be a little bit thicker. So that's the next thing we're going to do. I'm going to pop this nut off, and the lock washer and the plate, and then we'll adjust it. Okay, I've got that loose. I'm just going to get my magnet in here to hopefully snag that nut. Okay, there it is. And we've got the lock washer right there. And then our plate. And this is pretty easy right now. It's getting it all back in there that's hard. Okay. Okay, the washer that came out of that is 0.80, which is about 32 thousandths, and we're wanting 0.30, I'm sorry, at least 0.30 gap in there. That's about a 2 thousandths. Let's try that and see if that'll give us what we need. We'll take those two, put them together, and let me go get some tweezers here. Okay, let's see if we can get, I'm putting the one in that came out, plus, actually I've got a 3 thousandths there, so that's what I'm going to try. And see, we've got our plate, that goes back in there. And the washer, lock washer. And the nut. And of course, this is the hard part. Okay, I got it in there, and I just kind of lay my tweezers here flat against it, so to get it going there. So hopefully, this is actually pretty easy because this distance between it and the nut is a lot less than most of them. Most of them are well up inside, and it takes a lot more effort to get in there. Okay, now let's take a look at it again. Okay, that 30 goes right in there. I may have overdone it. Let's get a 0.35 millimeter. Looks like a 0.36 is what I've got. Yeah, I think it's too much. Let me get this one out of here and we'll get a thinner one in. All right, let's see what we have now. I took the 4 out and put a 2 thousandths in with the original shim, which was, what was it, 0.80. Okay, it needs to be 0.30 millimeter should go in, 0.35 millimeter should not go in. I don't have a 35, so 36 is what we will have to use. Okay, here's the 30. Goes in with pretty easily. Here's the 36. And it will go, but it's a little tight. Let's see what yeah, I've got a 0.33 millimeter, and that one is a good fit. So we should be good as far as our stroke goes. Now let's get into adjusting our cables. Okay, right here at the carburetor, we should have 0.05 to 1.0 millimeter. And I'd say we just have it. So that is good. And up here, we need to have about 0.1 millimeter. And I'd say we were right there. You just want some play, that's the bottom line. So we've got those adjustments that the way they should be. Now we're going to go after this cable here, the oil pump cable. I couldn't do that before because I didn't have any enough adjustment. And it's telling me that we want to line up this pin. Let me get you a little bit further over here. This pin with this arrow. Okay, so I'll pull this out and we'll just turn this to get our initial adjustment. We'll come up a little ways, maybe right there. You're not seeing what I'm doing. Yeah, I just brought this one up to get some of the initial adjustment. But you see that we're still not quite there. So I'm going to go ahead and pull some more adjustment right here. Okay, right there. Okay, so that should be good. We're right in line with it. And like I said, you can see the slide go, so you're capable of wide open throttle, so that's what we want. Now, just before I did that, I reached up and grabbed the throttle just to take that little bit of slack out that was up there. And then we adjusted the pulley, or the cable here, so that this pin is aligned with the arrow on the pulley. Okay, I've already done this, but remember from the last video, I loosened this screw up until the oil ran out and it quit showing air bubbles. Otherwise it was a constant stream. Then I tightened it back up. That gets us full from the tank to the cavity in the pump, so that it's running out and it's running consistently. Now, the next thing they want you to do, and we did this also, is to turn the little plastic knob here on the back in this direction, and watch that we have oil coming out. Okay, it should come out right here. This is the oil port. So I'm turning that plastic knob, and actually if you pull this cable out right here and kind of hold it back, that will make the oil come out of there quicker. Okay, you see it running out now? Okay, so that's our oil coming into the intake manifold to get mixed with the fuel right there. Just run it until you are sure there's no air bubbles in there. And it looks good to me. Okay. Okay, so now we can go ahead and get our intake manifold back in position. I did all this before, but we weren't able to adjust the cable because it was there was no slack left to do it. So we'll just get these back on. Right here we've got and I did check to make sure the gasket was in there. There's actually two gaskets, one between the reed valve and the cylinder, and the other between the intake manifold and the reed valve. And those shims, they're still available from Yamaha. This is the number that I use. It's, I think there's some different ones, but I've had these for quite a while. This is what they used to come in. And you always keep the ones you have. There's some new ones in there, and there's some off of other pumps where you take them out and put something else in. So always hold on to those. Let me get around to the other side and get this done and completely bolted back on. And I'm just using my little Phillips adapter, JIS Phillips, whatever you want to call it, for my, actually the one I use on my impact driver. So it's just too hard to get in there, so this way I can use it on my ratchet. And we'll do this in a cross fashion so we don't warp anything. Okay, and then we'll get our carburetor back in. Okay. And here's our divider, and we'll just run all this right. That's about where it was, and we'll stick it underneath there so it stays out of the way of the gas tank. And if you remember right, I had to take loose all this to get that piece out of there, the upper cable. So now I'm going to put that back in. And let's just try to get this back where it was. We'll get it under the cable. Look at the other side, see if there's anything. Yeah. Okay, we got our exhaust gasket here. This is one they call for. It actually looks about like the one I had. Maybe it's a little thinner. But anyway, that's what they call for. And wipe some of this oil off that got there when we were running it. And Goes up through there. Okay, this is, I think I've had some questions about the spanner wrench. This is a Williams. And the number is 471. That's, it's 3/4 inch to 2 inch. And it just does this job pretty good. You know, you can just move it here and it fits in the slots. I mean, you're kind of limited with the frame out here, but it's a heck of a lot better than a channel lock or a punch and a hammer. I've seen actually both of those used before. Try to get this pretty tight. So it'll seal. Okay guys, we got it off the lift. We're gonna take it for a little short ride, and we're gonna underline short because it's not real pleasant out there, but I think I can probably take it. I don't know, we got a little snow, but not out on the main road. So we're gonna give it a try. All right, guys, it's kind of cold. I think it runs pretty good. Smoking is way down. We got some of that burnt out of there. So we know the pump's putting out the right amount, so, or at least it's adjusted properly. We don't know about the amount. It seems normal to me, so I don't see any point in doing a volume test. There we go. Okay guys, there you have it. Our little mini bike runs out pretty good. I had a couple issues with it. The first time I took it out, it would die after one trip down and about halfway back. And it did it on me twice. I brought it in the shop. I checked the fire. We still had fire, and I still had gas in the tank. And you know, that's one of those things that are kind of indicative of a gas cap. So I had another one. I put it on there, run it up and down 3 or 4 times, and didn't have any more trouble. So I think the gas cap was at fault there. It looks like there's a lot of rust inside of it, so it's probably plugged up. The tank is actually fairly clean. Yeah, it is. So I don't know what the deal is with the cap, but I think that was the issue. I haven't had any trouble since. So the oil consumption, or what we're seeing, is down, and I'll go ahead and since I've run it up and down 3 or 4 times, I'll go ahead and take a plug reading and see what that looks like, but I think it's going to be okay. But anyhow, this has been a fun project. We've been all the way into the innards of this one and come back out, and everything's doing fine, I think. So thanks for going along on the ride. See you next video.